Hello everyone, it's What If Free and Stuff coming back at you with a what if I promised you guys yesterday. Well, today this is it. What if Thomas was a I can't even speak English. What if Thomas was a thermonuclear bomb instead of a train? Now, let's see, time placement. Oh, didn't even think about that. I usually just make this stuff right off the top of my head. Let's say late 60s, like 67. You know, about the time the hydrogen bomb was a thing. Anyways, I'm gonna create a little different global conflict that requires a nuclear strike, but that won't cause a chain reaction, just nukes going off everywhere, but just one nuclear strike. We're gonna start out with Thomas. As Thomas comes to, he's looking around, within his field of vision. He can't really see all around that well. Well, he could never really see all around that well. He could only see in front of him. Right now, what he sees is a bunch of people, lab coats, clipboards, talking amongst each other. He's like, excuse me, where am I? They kind of look up at him, and they're kind of like starting to jot stuff down on the clipboards. But about 80 feet in front of him, a huge set of double doors swing wide open. A doctor walks in. Lab coat, but no clipboard. He's got his hands in his pockets. He's coming up. And he says, "Ah, Thomas, you're awake." Thomas is looking around and says, "Yeah, I'm awake. Can you tell me what's happening, Doc?" And this doctor, he says, "Well, I conducted a little experiment. It's turning out more successful than I previously thought it would." And Thomas says, "So that's good, then." "For the circumstances, yes, that's very good." Now, then the doctor continues with, "As of right now, everyone thinks you have been scrapped. But no, we kept you alive. We have a completely different purpose for you." Thomas is confused. He asks, "What's that purpose?" The scientist says, We're turning you into a thermonuclear bomb." Thomas is confused and says, "I'm a bomb?" And the scientist says, "Yes, and a very big one at that. One wrong move, you could go off right here." Thomas is just surprised by this, and he says, "Well, make sure the handlers don't mess that up. Don't worry, the handlers are well trained. And you're going to be taken extra care of, because you're a living conscience." All you heads up is going to be a little messed up most of the way through the video, so. Since you're a living conscious, you can actually guide yourself. And Thomas says, "Well, that's lovely." And the scientist continues with, "As long as you're going down." And Thomas says, "Oh, that's even worse." And then the scientist says, but I wasn't sure if you were gonna be dropped from a plane or launched by an intercontinental ballistic missile. Now, I've suited you for both, just in case. Now, I'm going to describe to you, I'm going to show you the effect you have when you go off. Thomas says, wait, what if I don't want to go off? The scientist says, you have no choice. You're going to go off. Thomas is starting to get a little woozy about it, but not as much yet. Thomas watches all the footage and not Venn diagrams. He looks at all the graphs, sees the amount of damage he's calculated to do, and he's terrified. He's very terrified of how much damage he can do if he just goes off. Thomas is looking around and says, I don't want to be part of this. What was I before this happened? The scientist says, oh, you were a train. A little outdated, so I decided to soup you up. Thomas says, am I still going to be able to stick to the rails? The scientist says, no. I took all of that off. I replaced all your boilers with, your uranium, plutonium, and various other chemicals too. And, if you get hit hard enough in the face, there's no doubt you're gonna go off. And quite gloriously too. We've already tested several things just like you, except they weren't alive. They were just inanimate objects. You, on the other hand, you have more of a conscience. You're going to be very well aware when you're ascending, traveling, and dropping. And here in a couple of days, you are definitely going to be falling. Thomas says, while he's freaked out, he's asking, why am I being dropped? The scientist says, the Soviet Union has begun to make an advance on South America, heading north. We want to stop them dead in their tracks. You are going to be, you're going to be quite literally the epicenter of an all-out war or the end of a war. And, we're pretty much going to enjoy the show from a distance. So they spend the next few days testing him if he's going to be able to fit an intercontinental ballistic missile or not. He can. A little bit of struggle, but he can. And then they test him out to see if he was going to be able to be dropped from a plane, which is a lot cheaper and a lot more accurate, apparently, than an intercontinental ballistic missile for the time and technology, which is literally 20 years after World War II. Anyways, decided to hook him up to a plane. He's on the exterior from how long he is. couldn't quite fit him all the way inside. The day of takeoff, Thomas is really freaking out. He cannot handle this amount of pressure. He's scared crapless. The plane fires up the engines. Thomas is very scared. He can't begin to fathom what they're going to make him do. He's doing everything in his power, which is literally nothing, to not destroy so many lives. Then the idea comes across his head. What if I went off in the air? And, well, he almost calms down, still keeping up a good act of freaking the hell out. They get airborne, heading south from Nevada. He's trying to get as much wind to hit his face as possible, but it's just not quite enough. They leave the continent, fly just outside of Mexico, over the border, out of Mexico, into the Pacific. After a little while, they begin to make a little bit of a left turn and head straight for another few hours. They come across the South American continent, go over the shores, still flying. 2 hours later, Thomas can see where the target is, and he knows no matter where he lands, no matter how close or far, he can see that this army is going to be destroyed. And him almost not even noticing, he's released. Now, falling. Thomas is trying to guide his air path as far away from the Russians as he possibly can. And he's falling and falling and falling. As the ground rushes up and keeps getting closer, Thomas more accepts the impending doom. He's gonna die. They're gonna die. He's just hoping his blast can catch the pilots for this. But he can't see the pilots, they're too far. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. He doesn't even hit a tree. He heads straight to the ground. His face smashes into the ground, setting him off. Yes, I made that sound effect cringy as possible, so. Thomas goes off, killing the entire Soviet Union army. The Soviets weren't expecting that amount of power. They haven't quite developed the Tsar bomb yet. In retaliation. But they know if they strike back, This is going to turn into the world's worst war. So they decided to not strike back. But they do keep their holdings in South America, or what's left of it. And for the next 2 months, the Amazon, that rainforest a little further south, even Russian vessels, like naval vessels, outside of the blast range could still feel the heat. They said it felt like a full-on hand torch was being held right to their backs for the next 2 weeks. And for the next 4 months, almost all the rainforests are ensnared in wildfires, killing billions of more than they expected. The scientist, looking at all the data from Thomas going off, he saw where he landed, and which is exactly where the scientist expected him to do. Scientist says, "No figure. As I expected, a lot of damage." But the scientist is called. He was asked to join a meeting at which he will receive the Nobel Peace Prize. The scientist goes, receives his prize. And, well, South America is never the same again. The Amazon barely grows back. But due to all the radiation and the now new fallout, they thought summer was going to be bad because of the nuclear winter. But winter, it just got worse. Reported of 14 feet of snow, most of it radioactive, killing almost most of South America. And well,